In many cases, you'll want to take advantage of Photoshop for optimizing the images that you're managing via Adobe Bridge. If you're working with just a single image, of course, you can double-click on that photo and it will be opened by default in Adobe Photoshop via Adobe Camera Raw if it's a RAW capture. You can, of course, simply open Adobe Camera Raw and modify the settings directly within Bridge if you prefer. But in some cases, you'll need a little bit more specialized attention. Here, for example, I have a series of images that represent a composite panorama. I'll go ahead and click on the first image in the series and then hold the Shift key and click on the last image of the series, and then I can process all of these images in Photoshop in a relatively automated way. Now here I'm using the example of a composite panorama. The same basic process would apply for a high dynamic range image, for example, or if I wanted to batch process a group of images using an action in Photoshop. In all of those cases, I'll select the images and then go to the Tools menu in Bridge and choose Photoshop. Here I can batch process a group of images with an action, I can create a contact sheet, I can utilize the image processor to do things such as generating a series of JPEG images from the source images, I can apply lens corrections in batch to a group of images, I can load all of the files into a single document as Photoshop layers, for example to create a composite image, I can create a high dynamic range image, I can create a photo merge document, for example to blend multiple images into a very large depth of field, and I can also process collections within Photoshop. In this case, I'm going to use the Photo Merge option, which beyond allowing me to create a composite depth of field image, also allows me to create composite panoramas. So I'll choose that option from the menu. The images will then be sent to Photoshop. If Photoshop wasn't already running, it will be launched, and the Photo Merge dialog will appear. You can see that all of the images I specified are already included in the source files, so I'm ready to process them. I'll leave the layout set to auto so that Photoshop can determine how to process these images. I do want the Blend Images Together option turned on. Generally speaking, I'll leave the vignette removal and geometric distortion correction checkboxes turned off unless the images were captured with a lens that has quite a bit of those problems, either vignetting or perspective distortion. But generally speaking, the default options work quite well. I'll go ahead and click the OK button, and Photoshop will process all of those images which were sent to Photoshop via Adobe Bridge and then assemble them into a seamless composite panorama. So with that processing complete, you can see that I have a composite panorama complete with multiple layers and layer masks, so I can always fine-tune the result. I'll go ahead and apply some cropping to this image just to get rid of the extraneous edges. And once that's complete, then I'm ready to save the final result. So you can see that I've used Bridge to select and process the images, sending them over to Photoshop so that the final result could be created. And of course, once that processing is complete, I can continue managing this new image in Bridge as well. So you can see that working with Bridge to manage your images, you're really able to take advantage of a variety of features within Photoshop. And in most cases, these are features that require the input of multiple image files. And so using Bridge to identify the specific images that you want to process makes that process much more efficient.